Hi, guys. Welcome to the first episode of Anoni, the podcast that brings you the ever evolving amalgamation of pop culture. I am your host, Kazuki, and with me is my co host, Ai. Anoni, or What's This, is our humble corner of the audioverse. Here you will find a variety of pop culture topics discussed in the perspective of your resident nerds. And whether you're a casual dabbler or a true blue pop culture follower, we hope you find this show enjoyable. So, can you give us a little introduction about D&D?
D&D is a tabletop RPG game which was created by Gary Gygax. It's this tabletop RPG game where you sit around on a table with a group of friends and roll dice. You have characters, you have mages, sorcerer, warrior, champion, fighter. Uh, yeah, we have a various characters to choose from in playing D&D, and yeah, basically that's a summary of what D&D is.
Okay. So, D&D as a role-playing game. We know it's evolved over time and it's started with yeah, with real life just gathering of friends and playing on the table. It's like make believe but with math involved and dice. Of course, dice. And today we have a lot of other apps that help support games online for D&D. And we know Roll20 is one. Discord is also another place for players to gather and find and host games. So before anything else, how about sharing preconceptions about D&D, expectations about D&D, and your first experience into D&D?
Okay, so preconception about D&D is that it's this game where you could do anything um compared to what a conventional video game can do for you. It provides more interaction towards the player in its world. Unlike some video games that you are limited to what the narrative is, D&D you could just go ahead and stray away from what the story wants and then create your own create your own job or your own adventure. Things like that.
So what was it like for you, like the first time? What were you expecting going into your first game? And then yeah.
My first game. Okay. Looking back at it now, I'm not really sure, or I'm not very sure about the rules before I started. So I started with D&D 3.5 with some friends. Some friends introduced me. So yeah, I really thought that it's a make believe world where you could just do anything. But as the DM has informed me, it's not the case. You could not bring real world skills into the game. So what your character knows is not something you probably know, or what the player knows is not what the character knows. So if your real life character, real life self, actually have an ability to create um, things, that does not translate to your D&D character. So yeah, although it still provides with more interactive than just regular video game. I enjoy it the first time because I remember that I was trapped in a tower and I tried to figure out how to get out, and my actions are determined by a dice and not by my will alone. So there's that.
Okay. So like for your first D&D, like was how did you go about gathering a group? Like where did you find players? Where did you find your DM? And how did that start? How did it end?
Oh, okay. So yeah, in starting a group, yeah, in my case, it's just a weird way to start off with a group. I was invited to this game. The DM was based on Florida. My friend who is based on Thailand actually invited me, and then a few people came in. One is based from um, Belgium, Russia,
Oh,
Scotland, and Canada.
that's a lot of
So yeah,
players.
yeah, it's a lot of players, and yeah, um, so yeah, that's how we started. Scheduling what a bit hard. So we really need that much commitment to just play this game. Because having players all around the globe makes the time difference. It magnifies the difference in time. So it's kind of hard to set a schedule for it. But once we do start a game, we lasted for like 16 hours at most in most sessions. Yeah.
Wow, as a regular game that you do, like is it every week, every month?
This is every week. So most likely we do it on a Friday or Saturday, depending which one works for most players. So yeah, we did not play on a full set of players most of the time, but when we do, it's just a lot of fun. Yeah.
Wow. And that went on for full year?
Yeah, all a year or almost over a year. Yeah,
Nice.
it's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I think my first D&D experience was because you invited me to this campaign, and I remember how
Yeah.
um I did not know anything about the game at all. I have not read a book. I haven't seen a single YouTube. I think the only knowledge I have about D&D was from snippets and articles that I've read and artworks that I've seen from my friends and various mentions of Critical Role. But because I love fantasy as a
Mm-hmm.
genre, I was drawn to it, and so I relented to play this one game, and I made my character sheet, I think, on the same day that we were going to start the campaign. And I remember
Yeah.
rolling different I remember rolling the dice for initiative, and then when combat came, I was rolling and adding different modifiers because I didn't know that it's supposed to be just one. I'm supposed to just roll with a definite modifier for my attack roll, and so I was just going off
Yeah.
of what people were saying. So it was not the best first time experience, but yeah,
It's
it's
confusing.
confusing.
Yeah.
But I did get to learn as I go along. And then we did join that Westmarch server, and it just went off from there. So, for games, what do you think about role playing and acting? Is that something that you go um, full gung ho on, or do you rein it in? What is your play style?
Depends on the table. If everyone's is all for it. Everyone is role playing, acting as if they're their own character. It's very easy to get into that role playing, to get into your character. But there are some tables that are just very casual, usually just there for the combat and for the adventure. Yeah. So yeah, it vary from table to table. But personally, I'm more into just casual. But if the table is um, gung ho and we just really want to do the hardcore role play, I guess I could get into that as well. But it's not something I always want in the table.
Okay.
It's really it's really a case by case basis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of depends on your comfort level of the players too. Yeah, but do you prefer a DM
Yeah.
that does like goes full on into the RP, like does all the voices and
Uh
everything?
yeah, for the DM, I really appreciate the DM that do all the voices, the sound, the music, just anything to create that atmosphere for the world, for the adventure. That's really good. That's always a good DM. Yeah. There's no downside to it. Um, I'm not sure if there's a downside to it because once a DM get into a character, you start to see the world
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
build. Yeah, yeah,
It's when
yeah.
DMs can breathe life into. Yeah.
Bring life to a character. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I'm thinking for a downside to it, but I don't really see any downside to
Yeah,
it.
I think for players it's okay if they don't go full on for role play. And then for DMs it's a
Yeah,
big plus if they're able to create that atmosphere and it adds to the storytelling. So, for when talking about tables and playing, what what's an ideal player or what's an ideal table?
ideal table is probably those who understands what is a player and what is a character. So basically, as long as you can be a total pain in the ass as a character, but once you don't need to be a real life pain in the ass to your players.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, yeah. Same goes for DM. There are DMs that just wants to murder players. There's that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but mostly for players. At least DM usually just um you could know a DM who wants to murder a party because it's just railroad the players with rules. But for players usually they just probably they're not aware on how they act or on how they act and what's the player should be acting towards other players rather than how a character reacts to other characters and should they or maybe that character's attitude bleed out to the player something that tends to happen. But yeah, as long as the player understand where being a character ends and what where being a player began, I don't think that's a problem much. But it's something that as long as you are having fun and each other is respecting each other, I think it's a good table.
Yeah. So for beginners, like what would a beginner need to play D&D? Like
For a beginner, okay. So what they need is they need a DM. At least one of them could actually do that. One of their friends, a fun group of friends who will be raiding the party with. Yeah. Um. They don't really need a. Probably they need a DM's guide for that, but they don't really need an actual module. They could just homebrew the adventure for them to enjoy the story.
yeah. And then
Yeah,
they would need the handbook though. Like just to have like a
yeah. That they need to
just to
have.
have general rules
Yeah, just
for playing.
yeah, just yeah, just to have a baseline how the game should be played.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't need to adhere much to the rules. It's not. They don't need to be rules heavy. They just the main point here is to enjoy it. So it's up to the and to the party and how should they play the game.
Okay, so first things first, when you before a game you create your character. So tell me about your very first character.
Okay, so my very first character was based on Legolas from Lord of the Rings
Mm.
because I like the idea of a strong archer. So I made the character a high elf ranger. I played that character until level 15, around that level. Yeah. How about you? What's your first character like?
My first character is Emrys. Emrys is a half drow rogue hexblade. And now Emrys is level 20 with 8 levels in Warlock and 12 levels in Rogue. And they're also an archer. I didn't really plan for them to be an archer. It just kind of like I kind of like bows.
This happened to be an archer.
I at first I wanted to use just the daggers because I didn't really know much and they were simpler. But then I kind of like the bow kind of appealed to me, and it's always fun to like shoot things from afar and be away from the heavy
Be
action.
safe.
Yeah, the
Just be
distance always
safe.
helps. And that's always the first thing we ask the DM, like, how far is it? How far is it from me? When you're
Yeah,
doing the theater of the mind, just so you
that's
know,
true.
like it's safe to start kiting. Um, so first character ranger elf.
Yeah.
What's the background for your
So,
character?
yeah. Just to get into a bit dark here. Yeah. This elf is a very young elf. When he was 15, the old island which he was living in was like attacked by slavers. So everyone he knew was either taken or slave or turned to slave. So yeah, that was his motivation to start an adventure. And I made this character with a background that he likes high things. Usually, he can be found on peaks of buildings naked. Yeah, for some reason, I made him that he needs to be naked most of the time.
Going to
Yeah,
be funny. That's always like one of the things, the fun parts of creating a character is figuring out a quirk that,
yeah, that's true.
yeah, that stands out, like just makes them more memorable.
That's
Okay.
true. Yeah. How about Empress? How did
Em-
what quirk did you actually give Empress?
Emrys's quirk is they have this tagline where they always say that sentiments are complicated and they don't do complicated. And it was because I did not want Emrys to be involved romantically with anyone, and just
I
so
see.
it was a way to get around that. It's just to make an excuse, but it's caught up on them now after like avoiding it for 4 years. I in game time, so I don't know if it's a quirk anymore, but that's one of their quirks, and I think the other one is their penchant for cheese Danish, which
Oh,
I tied up with that's their favorite treat that their adoptive mother used to cook or bake for them.
is this still
So
Empress or your another character?
it's still Emrys, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Those are quirks, like fun quirks. So background, our first characters, like you've said before, our first characters usually are edgy and with
Yeah,
an edgy background.
yeah. It's something like a Batman-ish background
Yeah,
star.
yeah. Yeah, for Emrys, I made sure that they don't remember. They don't remember the first 7 years, was it? I forgot. And then they
Yeah.
were
There's
adopted
always
by
this.
humans and all that. Yeah, there's always like that edgy element
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
you're
there's this
orphaned.
ongoing joke on the internet that says that you don't want to be a parent in D&D because they always end up dead.
That is true. And then, well, not
Yeah.
everybody, but yeah, most of the time, yes. I think I've
Most of
met
the time, yeah.
somebody. I've met somebody that have their parents are still alive and well, but they just
Yeah.
want to go adventuring. One of those rare players, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so your first um failure and success, because we know it's all about the dice, and it's the best dice is always a nat 20, and the funny dice is always that nat 1. So nat 1s
Yeah.
always go either it can either be a character growth or character development, or it can be just really really bad. So what are your firsts?
Or very skeptical along those lines. So this new player joined the party, a level 1 party, or the character's a level 1. I'm at around level 15 or 12 at that time. Yeah. Since he is very distrustful, he tried to attack this new player. And
Mhm.
with a very low roll of the dice, he actually killed the character. Yeah, so
Oh my god, that would be
yeah,
all bad.
that's really bad because um the characters in game refuse to trust my character from then on, and it's kind of hard to justify my actions to them. That's one of the failures I consider the first failures I have in playing D&D.
Was that hard on
Trying
the table? On I mean, on your fellow players? Were they okay
well,
with it though?
no, they're not. They're
Oh
not.
my
After
god.
that, the player probably refuses to play the game with just me round. Like there's always need to be a person who could at least stack. Try, yeah. So there's that. Yeah. By the way, I'm that person who never miss a session. So my level was the
That high.
yeah
Yeah.
probably the highest one in the party. Yeah.
Okay, that's funny though. What about
Yeah.
uh first successes?
First success. What I consider first success when our party got trapped into this subterranean cave. So yeah, besides my character, the other one who's not actually trapped was a paladin. So yeah, convincing this paladin is took a while. It took like an hour, real time, 1 hour, just convincing him to like stay and help the party and not go back and get help. Because by then the party could be dead or worse. So yeah, with a roll of the dice, I roll like an 18 or something. It's not natural 20. It's just something possible for for the paladin to actually consider just helping out by the two of us. Yeah, and that paladin did not trust me at all. It
Is
got
it
to
the
the
same
point
one that you
that
killed? Is it
no,
the
no, it's
same?
not. It's one of the players that almost at my level.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that paladin got to the point that he had to tie me up and almost kill me because of the things I've done during the game, or to kill the character. So convincing the paladin to actually just trust me to helping me out is actually what I consider success. That's a lot because he does not trust me at all.
Yeah, I think that's one of the beauty of D&D is that the story evolves over time, the characters evolve over time,
Yeah.
and it's not something that can be easily replicated by a video game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's what you call actual consequences to your actions.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. For me, I think my first failure. Oh, I, mm, mostly it has to do with not being able to really prevent people from dying. But I think the epic crit that I got was melting Emeris's toes, like a couple of toes, just because I've rolled several ones in a row, and the DM finally decided, well, you can't just keep missing. You might as well have hit your foot by that time. So
Yeah.
yeah, I melted my foot with my own arrow. So that's my first failure, I think, and first success. I guess surviving my first D&D game is what I would consider a success. Yeah.
Okay. First game. How was it for you?
The first game the first game I was also drinking a bit just to get the jitters out,
Okay.
but
Okay.
I did not know what to expect, and I just rolled with it. Um it was fun though to get to know it as we went along, but then I also learned that I wasn't playing my character right because
Mhm.
Peter was playing another rogue, um would hide before any encounter, and he was wondering why I wasn't hiding. I didn't know I could, or that I should, as a rogue. And then
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't really know much about the skills and all that, all
I
ability
really
checks.
thought you're the kind of rogue who actually just stay in the line. I'll be this rogue who
Yeah, I did.
you
I
know?
didn't know. I didn't know that such things existed, and that there's this unspoken rule that if you're a rogue, you can hide while you're moving through a
Yeah.
forest or just being stealthy and all that. And then when combat time came, I didn't know my modifiers, so they kept changing with every attack roll. And I don't know if the DM noticed. He probably did, but he knew that I was new. So yeah,
Yeah, well,
that was a disaster. Yeah. Mm. And then I think that's yeah, it was just
oh,
a nightmare, and I needed a lot of hand holding all throughout the way until I think even until I reached like epic levels, like 16, 17. I was still having my stats and everything checked because I'm not sure. Even now, I think I was like several. Was it this year or was it last year that I realized that I've been adding a +1 to my hex to my pack weapon, even though it's magical,
okay.
when I shouldn't have. Yeah, so things like that. Like, I didn't know that I could do that. I didn't know that advantage only applied to the first attack when you're hiding and all
Oh,
that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
There's always something to learn with D&D.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, first thing for me, like from sneak, even though I play fighter, there's supposed to be, I'm not sure, usually allowed to do advantages coming
mm,
from stealth to attack. But there are TMs who allow well, like from stealth to attacking an advantage. So that's really depends on the TM.
yeah.
Because I play fighter and fighter usually don't have that benefit on stealth attacks.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I thought
Yeah.
anybody could have like advantage on stealth attacks. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also different playing because I'm playing on a smart server mostly. I don't
Mhm.
have home games or a campaign. So it's always a different table. Well, not always, but most of the time I'm playing with different sets of people, a different DM,
Mhm.
and it's only a one shot game, so there's not really a lot of progression story wise. You kind of just left to your own device, aiding your character development off game. So there is that. So tell me about home games though, because I know you've played campaigns and home games.
Yeah.
What are your memorable moments?
Are you like talking about the campaign or the actual or player experience? Mm.
Either is fine.
Okay. So yeah, home game for home game. There's a lot. Think about it. We were rushing this tower. We're clearing it out, and then we're trying to clear out the tower. It's a two tower, so the party split up. There was around six of us on a table. So so the other two went to a different tower, and the other four went to the different tower. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I paired up with Treasurer or was it? I forgot, but Spellcaster.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we enter the tower, since there's just a limited number of us, there's just two of us. We we destroyed the door so no one could get in. No information. Reinforcements could attack us from behind.
Yeah, on the flank.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Although the problem with that is that we don't know how powerful the enemy is going upward. Yeah. So basically we just got off our own
Your
exit.
own escape.
Yeah. So yeah, as we go on forward, we clear out the tower, and then once we reach the tower, we have this army of Soulwagon attacking
Oh
us.
my god.
Yeah. So that encounter, not from the base of the tower going on top, just staying on the tower and then just killing Soulwagon. That took us like 4 weeks of encounter,
Oh my god.
just killing them. Yeah, it's a lot. We get to the point that it starts to really get boring, just killing Soulwagon.
But you
Yeah,
survived
but
though.
we survive, and yeah, it's something we talk about from time to time. Like, you don't remember the time we fought Soulwagon for 4 weeks?
4 weeks and just the two of you
Four
on in
weeks.
the tower.
Just yeah,
You know,
yeah,
there's that rule: never
yeah,
split the party. But
yeah. At that point, I'm throwing anything. Like, I'm throwing shovels, rocks, anything that I can get my hands into. Like,
that is too
yeah,
funny.
yeah. I remember the DM saying, "Do you really want to use the shovel as your projectile ammo?" Then she told me that if I did, I'm gonna having like a -10 to attack or something like that. So -10 to attack on a 3.5 game, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's like guaranteeing that you're miss. Yeah, but
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. And 3.5. Wow.
yeah. Um, I have no choice. No one could give us any supplies. We're just trying to survive at that point. Yeah. So yeah, so yeah. It's something I always remember. Uh,
That is like that's ridiculously long.
yeah,
A long siege.
yeah.
Four
And I've
weeks.
never met anyone who actually go through like a 4 weeks battle with
Combat.
combat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever played combat with that long. But then again, I don't have a lot of not a lot of home games or campaigns. Okay, memorable moments are done. I think the memorable moments for Emrys was the bag of holding and the bag of holding
Oh yeah.
when
Create an
you're
explosion.
yeah, yeah, that was a fun one.
That's actually pretty epic because at that point, I'm just expecting to be TPK.
Yeah.
Because
And
I
then
mean,
we,
I,
we
I was at full health, but one singular fighter could not do much against a magical creatures.
yeah. Yeah. And I was like telling Peter to like just leave. But then I could not tell him in character because my character is unconscious on the ground next
Yeah,
to the enemy. And
that
then,
really metagaming.
yeah. And he did some pretty out of the box thinking with the whole bag of holding and the bag of holding, just blow everything up. So that was fun. I didn't even know that that could happen.
To be honest, that's metagaming as well. But it works. It's fun. We had fun. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those metagaming episodes where you know what? It's pretty epic that it happened, so
yeah,
let's see where it goes.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Attachment to characters. Which
That's
character is your favorite?
probably my favorite now is how. How is the first one to reach epic level. So
Yeah. How?
although I still remember my first ranger, my first wizard, my first I played monk. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
monk.
What class were you not able to play?
I stay away from fighter. Fighter was the last class I played,
Oh.
and yeah,
And how was a fighter?
and
Yeah.
how was a fighter? Yeah,
Yeah.
because most players I encounter just saying that fighters tends to get pretty boring at high level because all they just do is attack, attack, attack. There's that. Well, it's actually true. It's just that you know
It's also fun.
it's also fun,
Yeah.
and you get to do the cool stuff.
Yeah. Like you're one-shotting a Tarask.
Yeah, and yeah,
Pretty epic.
I like wizard, but I did not really play long with wizard and sorcerer. But right now, my most attached character would be Hal. Although he's supposed to be a throwaway character, so there's that.
There's always a twist. What is with a throwaway character? Why was he a throwaway
Uh,
character?
because I refuse to to create a background for him. Basically, all I do is just give him a trait and then a class. So basically, I just want him to be really stupid so that I don't have to justify my actions. And then, yeah, and he needs to be a fighter because should no one should depend on him.
Mm-mm.
And also for me, there's no spell to consider and spell to worry about.
Okay, okay. Hmm. Oh, I'm obviously attached to Emrys. This
Why is that?
Emrys is my first character, and I spent so much time um creating the
Oh yeah,
backstory without even researching what the game is about. So you can just imagine there's a lot of probably mechanical stuff and stuff that shouldn't really happen, even if it's D&D and it's fantasy. So I've had to go
yeah,
back and redo a lot of the backstory. But I really liked Emrys and how Emrys progressed the character, even though
yeah,
it's all one shot games.
yeah.
But yeah, it's been fun. So
It's
what's your sorry, what did you say?
it's an interconnected one-shot games. So
Yeah, yeah, that is true. That is true. It's just all a matter of making sure you get the same DM and the same table.
yeah.
It's always nice. So what are the struggles of a D&D player? Hardships of making it to a game night. What's the number one cause?
Well, number one cause of making it into a indie night is that um well there's could be a lot of stuff, but for me it's gonna be work. And if you're only getting 1 day in a week to rest, you'll probably like end up just slipping it on it
Yeah.
rather than actually playing or wasting your time for playing a 16-hour game on TD.
Yeah, that is true. I think one of the other issues is the schedules also. Like like you
Yeah,
said, like especially if people are coming from different time zones. It's always
exactly.
like finding the time to start the game and then actually making that time. It's hard.
Yeah, it's gonna turn into from a fun game to a commitment at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
why do you
there's that.
keep coming back to D&D despite all these struggles and with the whole pandemic? You can't really play IRL,
Yeah.
though you probably
Well,
can. 6 feet
you
apart.
probably can. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what?
Well, why? Probably because it's an escape. It's an escape to a daily life. Um. Yeah. In D&D, you could be strong. You could be pretty. You could be a hero. You could be a villain. You can even be a demon if you like. So there's that.
Yeah, it's true.
Probably what's keep the reason why I keep coming back to D&D is that because it's a it's the lore of the world. It's the character I create. Especially if the DM like allow you to play with the world. Like I want to explore the world the DM created, and I want to explore the character I created on where are they going with the life we choose to be, like an adventure. Yeah. So we know where they started. I like to see where this is going. I like to see the world flourish, or what kind of world will this be? So there's that. And once I'm invested to the world that was created by the DM for his players, yeah, I tend to come back. Um, yeah,
Yeah, that is true. That's one of the things that is also hard to replicate in a game
yeah,
because of
that's true.
so many. There's so many talented DMs with lore building and storytelling that it's just a different adventure every time, and
Yeah,
it's always a nice outlet, an escape from the real world. Like you said, you
yeah,
could be anything. The only limit is your imagination, and you could virtually do anything, be anything, and achieve anything and affect the world that is built for, well, for the characters. Yeah.
that's true. Yeah.
So how did D&D influence your life going forward?
Um, well, I'm not sure, but well, how it affect my life or influence my life? Well,
Yeah.
I made financial decisions based on this to D&D, or you know, how much should I spend for this specific dice set or this artwork? You know, it's
That's true. There's never enough dice. We all know
that's
this.
true.
There's never enough
Yeah.
dice. And then as long as you stay away from the minis, I think you're still good. Once you go over there, and once you start
It's
buying and start painting your minis, it's like you've crossed that threshold, and
yeah.
it's the point of no return. And it's just
I
a
mean,
downhill thing.
once you purchase something, it's gonna there's always be a second time.
Yes. Yes. Then there's just the books, and then dice, more dice, and minis, and
Yeah,
then
more
maps.
times.
And
Oh, well, perhaps. Uh,
yeah.
but I like creating my own maps. Although, unless it's a signature, like a signature map, like specifically for like. No, I don't think I bought types maps for D&D aside from the one from Lord of the Rings.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, map making is a skill. I feel like
Yeah.
it's one thing to create dungeons and an encounter scenario, like a mini map, but
Yeah.
like to create entire worlds is
Yeah,
something
map
that's just
making is a
amazing.
talent because just the amount of biomes you're gonna be
Mm-hmm.
uh present on your world. You know,
Yeah.
different biomes, creatures, things like that.
Yep. Well, anything more we'd like to add before we wrap it up?
Um, what else in your end? How does a D&D affect your life?
Well,
Besides the one we just said.
yeah, there's dice and then there's art. I feel like my art because I draw and ever
Yeah,
since I started playing D&D, all my drawing's been focused on that.
D&D.
Yeah, just everything related to Emrys, everything related to D&D, and it really made a difference in the progress um of my art. I think it really helped me grow and nurture my skill in that.
Yeah,
It's probably because I'm so passionate about it that I don't mind spending time um improving. So I think it's always good. Anything that D&D brings to the table is always good.
yeah, I
Unless you're
agree.
buying dice every day. Unless you're buying dice every week and then,
I mean, at that point, you're just gonna have a space for your dice.
yeah. Yeah, that is true. Well, anything else?
Anything else? I could not think at the moment. What else should we
I
talk
think
about?
yeah, I think we did cover it. But
Yeah.
for next session though, we can add some more and we do have a list of items that we'd like to talk about like favorite class, favorite race,
Mhm.
feat,
Okay.
West March versus home game, D&D items or feats you would like to have IRL,
Yep.
and maybe a I don't know, maybe a walkthrough um in creating a character from start to finish.
Okay, that
Stuff
sounds
like
good.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Next week then. Tune in for
yeah,
next week's
episode. Yes.
episode.
Thank you for
Okay.
listening to Anuni. So, before we go though, show some love for your soon to be favorite podcast. Oh, by leaving us a like or subscribing. I'm not sure how this works since we don't have it yet, but stay tuned next week for the additional D&D topics. Do you have a Facebook page you'd like to plug or social
Not
media?
at the moment, but we are working.
Oh yeah, not at the moment, but we are working on it. So stay tuned and thank you for listening. You're ending this show with awkward silence. Thank you.